Yo, what is up, everyone? It's your boy ShadowDTV. We've got my boy Justin here. Guys, today we are celebrating the launch of Marvel Snap. Yes, I know the game has been global for over almost a week now. Unfortunately, last week we went live a few hours before the game went global, but we're super excited. We've been having a ton of fun with the game. Tons of new players that have joined that we're seeing, you know, on social media, on Twitter, on Reddit, just chatting about the game, having a ton of fun. Guys, you may have noticed Tom is not with us today, unfortunately. He should be back next week. Again, he's been super busy. He's been like moving house, doing a bunch of other things. But guys, we've got some good news. We've got some guests lined up now that Marvel Snap has gone global. I've enlisted some guests to join the show. A lot of them are Marvel Snap content creators, so you may have heard their names around already once they're on the podcast, but it's going to be really great to do that. Justin, how you been? Good?
Yeah, really good.
You're good, excited?
Yes, very excited. I hit Infinite just after global launch, so
Hey,
I'm
look at this guy.
stepping up from last season.
Oh, you were so, like, you know what? You just ran out of time. You just left it too long last season, I reckon.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Guys, on today's episode, of course, Global Launch is here. We're going to discuss, like, first week impressions that new players are having. We'll discuss a few things I've seen, me and Justin have seen new players discussing. And it's funny because a lot of them have had the same questions and issues that we all had when we started in the beta. Tons more Marvel Snap content has been coming out. I've been making a ton more content here on the YouTube channel. Guys, we don't only have the podcast streamed live here on YouTube, but we've also got tons of deck profiles and things like that. So that's at ShadowDTV. It is like kind of my personal channel, but we kind of it's easier to run the podcast on here than make another channel. So definitely go and check that out. Guys, we've had a massive surge in podcast listeners this week. Literally, we quadrupled our listener base literally just this week. Since global launch hit, I've just been watching the numbers like exponentially go up, which is insane. So thank you so much, guys. You're absolutely incredible. I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. I noticed people were going back and watching previous episodes, getting up to speed with everything Marvel Snap, which is sick. Guys, if you are enjoying the podcast, if you're new to the game, you know, if you've got friends playing, make sure you let them know about the podcast. We really appreciate it. You know, make sure they stay up to date with all the latest Marvel Snap news, latest decks. You know, you want them to know what's going on as well. I guess unless you have to verse them in Marvel Snap, you might want to have the advantage there. Today, we're going to talk about some beginner decks. So I know there's so many new players and, you know, a lot of them are probably wondering, what the heck am I supposed to play? There's tons of content out there, but we're going to give you our favorite Pool 1 decks and some Pool 2 decks. I know a lot of people are ranking up very fast. So we're going to go through some decks. We're just going to discuss some of the cards you get early in the game, what we think about them and what we think about the decks that you can play. And we're actually going to do something, I thought this would be fun, but we're going to look back at the history of Marvel Snap so far. So yes, the game is quite new, but there's been so many changes since the beta. Up until how the game is now. And actually, we didn't get the beta in Australia for a little bit. So there's actually a ton of things that we never experienced, but we're going to discuss them anyway and what people's thoughts were on the past, in Marvel Snap's past, I guess. And of course, we're going to go through this week, the featured locations, what decks we've been playing and stuff as well. And Snap Who, our favorite Marvel Snap quiz. Obviously, if you're new to the podcast, stay to the end. You're going to love the Snap Who. Justin came up with the title, so we're going to be playing that. We basically have to guess a secret Marvel Snap card. It's a ton of fun. Guys, we're going to roll that intro and get straight into it. We've got a ton to get through. Let's do it. All right, so Justin, basically, super exciting week. There was so much happening, so much content coming out, so much buzz and hype. I've seen, I reckon, 1 billion Marvel Snap trailers on every social media platform that I'm on. Did you end up seeing all the ads?
I've seen a lot. Every time I go onto YouTube or Reddit or anything really, or even the App Store, like the first thing on the top of the page is Marvel Snap. It's good though. It's good. I like the hype.
It's great, but I can't like recall the last time there was like a media campaign like this for a video game. Like I've seen it for like, I guess, real big AAA games, but you kind of don't take notice of them because you just see them everywhere. Like, I mean, Call of Duty every year, I see it on every bus, every billboard, so I kind of just ignore it. But I guess because we've been focusing on this game so much, it's literally every time I open a piece of social media, I'm seeing a Marvel Snap ad. And it's cool. Like, and you know what's the interesting thing? They're all different. Like, I'm not just getting the same ad every time. I reckon I've seen about
very different.
Yeah.
Did you see the like that Nick Fury little like what was like a 30-second
that was
clip?
Fantastic.
and it was
Big
so different.
big props to Marvel Snap and Second Dinner getting Samuel L. Jackson on board. I'm assuming they probably filmed it like in between, like, you know, a movie or something that they were doing.
Yeah.
Or like whatever. Yeah. But it was just cool that it was, because I'm watching it and I'm like, what the heck does this have to do with Marvel Snap? And then the ending, like, I was just dying. Like, Squirrel Girl, she says Squirrel Girl.
Yeah.
And
Special
then
shout out.
and then she's just there with the phone. Guys, if you haven't watched it, it's on the Infinite Snap Pod. Sorry, our Twitter for Infinite Snap is at Infinite Snap Pod. So yeah, I actually retweeted it there, and if I haven't, I'll definitely do that before this goes live, to you guys on your podcasting apps. But yeah, so the video was really, really funny. It was really well done. I really enjoyed it. Other than that, it was pretty much just like, hey, play the game, do this, do that. Justin, did you see the trailer for Japan?
I don't know if I did, to be honest.
It was really funny. There was like a really catchy jingle. I might actually retweet that as well. It was actually really, really well done. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So pretty interesting week with all the ads. I'm sure it'll slow down eventually, but I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm hitting like on all of them. Enjoying seeing the game hyped up. I wonder how long it's going to be before the hype kind of like tails off. Like, what's your prediction? Maybe a month, 2 months before? Not when I say the hype. Like, I mean like just the hype of like global, I guess.
The hype of global launch.
Yeah,
I'm not sure because like the thing is with every like new Marvel show or Marvel movie that comes out, they can just like there's so much hype can like be around this game.
Yes.
And the marketing is so awesome because like, you know, we play a couple card games ourselves.
Yes.
But I can't get friends like just say
discuss
something
this,
something like Keyforge, you know, it's like no one knows what Keyforge
like even
is. It's
even
a card
beyond
game.
that, like just even like trying to get someone to play Pokemon cards. Everyone knows what Pokemon is, but they kind of go like, some people just like,
true.
oh, what like the game? Do people actually play that? Like I know so many people that collect cards, but literally, like I met some dude in a shop that and he was like collects Dragon Ball Z cards, but never touched the game. And I'm like, it's like, yes, Dragon Ball Z is a huge franchise, but it just seems like fairly niche to be collecting something like that and not playing it. And you're right. I guess, continue on your point about that.
Yeah, so like, but with this, like so many friends, like Marvel's such a huge IP, obviously, and it has so many different targeted audience for all the different shows and movies that like people just will actually give the game a go. And like the game is so easy to pick up. Like it may be hard to master or whatever, but it's so easy to play. So like all it takes is someone who's into a Marvel movie or a Marvel character to pick up the game and give it a go.
Yeah.
And then like they're hooked pretty much.
Yeah, it's I think you're right. And I think the fact being a digital card game, short games, it's really easy to market. Whereas I feel like if this was like a Marvel trading card game, and look, don't get me wrong, there is plenty of Marvel board games and like card games, but like a trading card game like this, although I guess this isn't really a trading card game, but like a game like this, yes, it's Marvel, but it would probably struggle in the like in real life gaming space. I think there is a game called Marvel Champions, which is like a co-op game, and that's done really, really well. But I mean, that's a bit different to Marvel Snap. This is like a battle card game. So I definitely think you're right. The Marvel IP really helps sell the game. We've got so many people. Like we know people that literally don't even play games. Like they might play Call of Duty every now and then, and they're like addicted to this game. So it's pretty insane. So yeah, that's really, really cool. What else we got? So yeah, we've got for first week impressions. So there's been a lot of chatter about, I've seen so many people posting on Reddit, like, is this a bug? Is this not a bug? Is this how it's meant to work? And we pretty much had all those same questions. So it's good that there's already people that have experienced it to tell people what was meant to happen or why that happened. And I mean, I still have questions every now and then where like there's a new card or an interaction I haven't seen. I mean, I think we were talking about, we were trying, like the hypothetical came up. If Professor X activates and then your opponent's White Tiger activates, does it play the tiger? And I think the consensus was yes, because it's playing it, it's not moving it.
Yeah, and it just confuses me.
We already have questions, and we're like, we've been playing for months.
The other one was, what was the other one? It was something about... Oh, it was something about Green Goblin. We were talking about it the other day.
No, I can't remember. But yeah.
Do you remember
There's so many interactions with that, like with those cards. Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about.
It's with Lockjaw.
It's with Lockjaw, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
So you play Green Goblin,
yeah,
and he goes to the other side.
and then
Lockjaw swaps him out for a new card,
on
and
their
then he
side.
comes back
Yeah,
on their side, but he
yeah,
comes back to your side.
yeah. It's yeah. So look, you're gonna new players are gonna encounter a bunch of like strange interactions, but I mean I think there's good resources there with Twitter and Reddit to confirm a lot of these things. I did see like it was really weird on Reddit, and I know like gaming communities can be like toxic at times, but I saw like someone would ask a question because they didn't understand the interaction. Someone would be like, "Well, obviously it's because of this," and it's just like literally it's the first time these people are playing the game. And I look at those comments and I'm like, oh, what do you mean? Obviously, like I literally look at it and go, oh yeah, like that's a fair question. Like you don't understand the wording entirely, or the wording is a little bit like contradictive. Because there's definitely, I mean, we had the thing with Crimson Cosmos and like playing Swarm there at 0 cost, and you couldn't because it was still considered a 2-cost card. And
Yeah.
so they've changed that recently. But I mean, before, based on the wording, it seemed like that was incorrect. That the card didn't work. The location didn't work as intended. So there's definitely a lot of questions. I'm glad that new players are asking the questions. They're learning the game. I've been answering any questions I can. People have been posting like even comments on our YouTube videos. Like I've just been just answering questions. Like, and they're simple questions, but they're important questions for someone who has just started playing the game. Like, when do I unlock this card? I don't have this card. What other card could I use? And the people who've been playing the game for a bit longer, you know, they obviously know the answers, but it's great that we can help out newer players, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it was a bit overwhelming when you start playing the game and you think, oh wow, I'm like unlocking these starter cards, and there's pool 1 and pool 2 and pool 3, and the collector level goes up to 3,000 before you may finish pool 3.
That's
and
right.
I remember thinking, wow, there's so many cards.
Yeah.
We used to play like in the early podcast of Snap Who, and we used to say, don't choose a pool 3 card because we don't know them. And
we don't
now,
know them.
like,
Yes, and
we still don't know them, but yeah, we know more of them.
I got last week's like completely wrong. So that shows how much knowledge we have. But we like exactly like you said. That's why I've been focusing on like new decks this week. On the podcast, we're going to focus on stuff for new players. We're going to discuss some of Marvel Snap's past because I thought it'd be great because new players are going to be like, wow, as if that was how the game was. And players who've been playing for a while are going to be like reminiscing or maybe like despising how the game used to be. So I think that'll be a ton of fun. So guys, like I said earlier, there's been a massive surge in podcast listeners. So the YouTube video has been doing well. Like the podcast on YouTube has been doing great. You guys have been dropping into the live stream. Guys, if you haven't, you can catch us live Tuesday evenings Australian time. So you just stay tuned. You can see when you go on the YouTube, we usually have it scheduled so you'll be able to see your local time. But if you listen on podcasting apps, which most of you will, you know, you listen in the car, on your way to work, etc. Guys, they're like completely blown up. Thank you so much. Like I said, we've quadrupled listeners literally in a week. We've been doing this podcast for maybe 2 to 3 months, and we understood, like, you know, most of the people listening would be people from the beta because the other people didn't have access to the game, and like it's literally just gone like nuts. And we were hoping, we were hoping that would happen, but guys, you've been absolutely insane. So thank you so much. And yeah, so I think, Justin, what should we do first? Should we maybe look at new decks for beginners first, or should we look at the history of Marvel Snap? What do you reckon? Justin's in the driver's seat.
Yeah, maybe. Do you want to go over the featured and hot locations?
Let's do that.
First?
Yes, actually,
that's like it's a usual thing that we do.
Yeah, I was thinking I kind of threw it in at the end, but you're right. Let's go through that because everyone. I just realized some people have been experiencing featured locations for the first time ever this week.
Yeah.
So each week, Marvel Snap have a featured location which is on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So it lasts for 48 hours, and there's a 40% chance of that location appearing every game. And then on Sundays is the hot location. This one only lasts for 24 hours, but it appears in 60% of games. So you essentially have the featured location for 2 days, and that's usually a new location. That's the first time we've ever had it. And then hot location is a location that's already been released, but we get it for like a ton for 24 hours. And it's good because people build decks around it. We'll go through the first one because I was about to start talking about what I played.
Yeah.
So
the featured location. Yeah, that was Daily Bugle.
Daily Bugle, that's the one.
Daily Bugle.
And what does Daily Bugle do?
You get a copy of a card in your opponent's hand.
Now, I thought, yeah.
Yeah, what did you reckon about
I
this,
think
this location?
I think it was an interesting location. I feel like it didn't really. I like the fact that it didn't completely impact your deck. So you still got to keep the cards in your deck. It didn't really change your game plan. But getting that card, either it was something useful that you could use, or it was, hey, I know what's in my opponent's hand. I know what option they could play, and I maybe can figure out what deck they're playing as well. Like, for instance, I don't know, let's say a Devil Dinosaur goes into my hand. I know that they're probably playing, or an Iron Man, for instance. They may be playing an ongoing deck because I've got Iron Man in my hand. Or Spectrum. Spectrum goes into my hand. Well, they're definitely going to be playing some ongoing cards because that's what Spectrum does. Buffs the ongoing cards. So I thought that was a cool thing. The Daily Bugle animation was so cool. Did you like the animation?
It was cool. And they don't really do that kind of stuff with locations. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it's usually like the location will have an animation, but this was like per card. So someone's had to obviously program that. So I thought it was a really cool way to do it because it was very thematic. You know, you had the newspaper land with the card name and like a little bit of text, which was really cool. And yeah, I thought it was helpful in figuring out what your opponent was playing. Like sometimes a 6-cost card came into my hand, like a Destroyer comes into my hand. I already know what deck they're playing. Well, you know, some idea. And I know that Destroyer could come down on turn 6. So, yeah, I like the Daily Bugle. I thought it was a fun location and it didn't impact the game. So it wasn't like, oh no, I can't play this cool new deck that I've made. I guess, did you have the same sentiment?
Yeah, it was more the information that you get from what's in your opponent's hand. Like, you know, if it came up on turn 1, then usually straight away, you know what kind of a deck your opponent has.
Yeah.
And if it comes up on, any of the locations 1, 2, or 3, sometimes it's like a key card that your opponent's deck needs to succeed. So you know, it may be like, I don't know, it may be like a Apocalypse or something like that, or no, it may be a Halla, you know?
Yeah.
If you're playing against a Halla deck and then a Halla comes into your hand, you know that they're going to pull it off.
Yeah.
So you may maybe retreat or you just be cautious. So it's more about, I think, the information, and also, the animation was awesome.
So cool.
Goes right with the theme because Daily Bugle is a newspaper company in the Marvel universe, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's like pretty focused in Spider-Man. Yeah, it's I thought it was cool. It was fun. It kind of I had no people complain about featured locations, and I can understand it because it's for 48 hours. If that's if that's your day off work or studies or something, and that's your only time to really play the game, it can be frustrating for sure. I completely understand that. So it was nice to see a location that wasn't super game breaking and didn't force you to play a specific deck. I felt like you could play any deck, and the Daily Bugle was like, sometimes you're going to get a cool card, sometimes your opponent might get like your best card, but it was random. Sometimes I got like a Korg, and I'm like, okay, this is cool, but it doesn't help my deck's plan, so I just wouldn't play it. I was pretty happy with this week's location.
Other times it was awesome when I was playing I was playing my Patriot deck, and I had just played Patriot on turn 3, and it would give me like a Mystique or something. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, actually, that happened to me. I got a Mystique at one point, and I actually think I wasn't in a position to use it. But you're right. Sometimes you get the exact card that you wanted anyway.
Yeah.
I ended up with 2 Onslaughts at one point, and I was like, oh, if only I could play both of these, that would be insane.
Yeah.
So cool location, happy with it. Didn't play anything special deck for it, just kept playing what I was playing. I think you did the same.
Yeah, me too.
By the sounds of it. Yep, cool. And so then Sunday, so only a couple days ago, was the hot location Kamartaj. So this location is not new. We've had it in the game for probably ever since we've been playing it. It's been part of the game. Yep. So Kamartaj, obviously, your on reveals happen twice. There's a pretty powerful ability if you're playing an on reveal deck. I posted did I post the deck list on Twitter? I might not have by accident. I was planning to, but the deck list, and to be fair, a lot of other people were playing something similar. Basically, your main combo, obviously you're playing a ton of on reveal cards like Scorpion to hurt your opponent, but the big combo was you wanted Ironheart there, you wanted a Wolfsbane there, you wanted a White Tiger there, and then to finish turn 6 you were playing Odin, and basically it went absolutely nuts. So you couldn't always get Wolfsbane and Ironheart there, depending on the location. Sometimes you could get all of those cards there. And then when you play Odin, sorry, I lied. You want Wong there. Wong was the big combo, broken, disgusting combo. So Wong triggers your on reveals twice, then Kamatage triggers your on reveals twice, and then Odin triggers your on reveals again. So if you hit that combo, Wolfsbane would get to like 60 plus, Ironheart would buff everything to like a bajillion, and you would end up with like 100, between like 60 and 100 at every location. It was insane. It was disgusting. I just kept doing it to people, and I started feeling bad after a while because they'd be in like a really good position. If Kamatage wasn't there, they were in an amazing position, and they would just get absolutely slaughtered on an 8-cube game. And I went up a fair bit and felt kind of bad. You played the same list, yeah?
Yeah, where did I see your list?
I think I posted it. I think I sent it to you, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you sent it to me. I used that exact same list because I unlocked Wong sometime recently, maybe last week, and I hadn't really used him yet. And that was like a great location and a great deck.
Yep.
To see his full power on. Like even if I had in hand like Wong and White Tiger, and Ironheart and Odin, like if I could get those in the first couple of turns and I had him in my hand, I just wouldn't play anything until turns 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then I would just spam those 4 cards at the one location, and you'd get tigers everywhere with Ironheart going off.
How crazy is it? It's absolutely insane. I think it was like, and this is the discussion about locations that force you to build a certain way. So obviously, Kamatage, if you play on reveal decks, you're getting, you're capitalizing on it, and if you're not playing on reveal, then you basically want to be doing the opposite. You basically want to be countering the on reveal cards. They're really your only 2 options when we have these types of featured or hot locations. And so I kind of see where people are coming from when they get frustrated with it. I haven't seen any new players too frustrated with it yet, but I'm sure they'll come out of the woodwork in the next few weeks or so.
It does get frustrating.
It just depends.
Yeah, you could also just go for like an anti-meta, get like a Cosmo in your deck and just chuck it on Kamatage. And
you've even got Enchantress.
Then your opponent's deck, or Enchantress. And your opponent's deck then is probably like just bricked because they're relying on the Kamatage and the on-reveal effects.
Yeah, you're right. Cosmo there on turn 3 is pretty much just game over. Like, as long as you've got other cards to support it, all of a sudden none of their on-reveals work at that location. So they've got to play them somewhere else. They're not capitalizing on the location. So they can still win, obviously, but you're basically just like, I feel like when these locations happen, you either go all out on capitalizing on it or you go all out on countering it. So I went all out on capitalizing on it, and it worked pretty well, and didn't see too many Cosmos, to be honest. But yeah, so that was Kamatage. I enjoyed it for the day. Any longer, and I probably would have got sick of it, to be honest, because most of my games were just mirror matches of Ironheart, White Tiger, Wong, Odin, and whoever hit the combo. Like if you saw them about to hit the combo, you just retreated. Like if they had Wong, White Tiger, and Mystique, and I'm like, well, they're playing Odin now. Not Mystique. Like Wolfsbane. Oh, they're playing Odin now. Bye.
Yeah, but on reveals are such fun abilities to play, especially on a Kamatage, and if you have Wong, that
so crazy.
I didn't really see Cosmos either because I think everyone just had fun with it.
And you know, it's funny we say that because I think, I'm not sure if it was last week's hot location, but it was maybe a few weeks ago, Onslaught Citadel, which is, it doubles your ongoings at that location. So instead of the on reveals, it's the ongoings. And playing Patriot there was just ridiculous. Like,
it was insane.
It was just gross. And it was the same thing. Like, you were forced to play ongoing, and then your opponent would play Enchantress to block it. It was literally the same thing, but ongoing instead of on reveal. So yeah, I think locations like that force you to play a certain way any more than a day, and it would be like quite restrictive. And again, like we're thinking, if you play the game every day, probably doesn't bother you as much. But if you only get a chance to play it every now and then, and that's the day you have time, and that's what you have to play with, it can feel very restrictive, I think. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of play every day, so it's not like, I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like a huge deal. I'd have fun with it, but yeah, if you don't play a lot and you're stuck with a certain location, it would get extremely annoying. Yeah,
that for sure. We've got someone in the chat, El Damo. He said he got Patriot last week. I want to shout him out because Patriot is absolutely sick. Hope you're having fun with Patriot. So let's get into some beginner decks, I reckon, and then after that we'll look at the Marvel Snaps history and how it ended up being what it is today. So let's get these decks going. I've got a bunch of decks to go through. We're just gonna so anyone that's been playing Marvel Snap for a while, you've probably played a lot of these decks, but I mean, you're gonna have some insight on this as well. So you're gonna yeah, you're not gonna it's not gonna be too stale for you, for anyone that's been playing for a while. I've got some deck lists here. Let's bring them up. I've got some visuals, so if you're watching on YouTube, you will be able to see the deck lists here, which is cool. And if you're listening on your favorite podcasting app, I'm going to post all of these deck lists at the Infinite Snap on the Infinite Snap Twitter. So that's at Infinite Snap Pod. So go and follow us on Twitter, and you'll be able to see all these deck lists. So you're not going to be missing out. Don't worry. So first up, we've got this ongoing deck. This is using only pool 1 cards, so only starter cards and pool 1. So you should be able to build this deck by, like 224 is once you've got all of pool 1. So this is an ongoing deck. Obviously, ongoing, we discussed, it's a great ability. You've pretty much the main two are on reveal and ongoing. There are other abilities, of course, but I find these two mechanics are the big ones. Justin, what's your thoughts on ongoing? And take us through the deck list.
So ongoing, I think ongoing seems like I don't know, I feel like you prefer ongoing to on reveal. I think you have in the past.
I have. No, you actually, now that I think about it, you're right, because I used to vouch for Claw a lot.
Yes, we've mentioned it in previous podcasts.
Yes, you're right.
I think ongoing can get some crazy power numbers, especially with Iron Man.
Yeah.
And yeah, like something like Claw, it's just insane because you can get like, what is it, Sanctum Sanctorium, where you can't play cards at that location. You play Claw next to them, and like, yeah, you get, what does he have now?
6 power,
5 plus 5, 6 power.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
So Claw, so Claw, for those that don't know, you play him at his location, and he gives +6 power to the location on the right. So he can get into locations where he can't be, or even better, when you have 4 cards at that location, your opponent goes, well, they can't get any more power there. You drop a Claw, and it's like, thanks.
Yeah,
and if there's an Iron Man there, there's already an Iron Man there, it's like easy win.
Yeah, so in this deck we've got Ant-Man, so he's just a 1/1. He gets, I think, +3 if the location is filled on your side of the board.
And he's ongoing.
Elektra's actually on reveal, which is destroy a random 1-cost card from your opponent's side at this location.
So the important thing to understand is pool 1, you don't have a ton of ongoing cards. So the deck isn't obviously super optimized, but we pretty much fit in as many as we can without it being like too crowded. And don't go through all the abilities. We'll just go through like the important cards, I guess, because the rest are kind of just in there for, So you've got Korg. Korg's, adds a rock to your opponent's deck. It's just a bit of disruption. And then Nightcrawler, your
Nightcrawler is a good one. I love Nightcrawler. You can use him in every single deck.
Oh, he says this every week.
Same thing, because you can just move him to locations where you can't really play cards.
Yeah.
If you're locked out. Mr. Fantastic, awesome card, spreads some power across the board.
Yep.
Punisher makes your opponent think twice before playing cards at that location.
Yep.
Captain America, you fill that location and you play Captain America, you get some buffs. Kazar is good in this, is ongoing, and he's good in this deck because you got 4 1-cost cards.
Yep.
So you can flood the board easy early on with those 1-cost cards and then play a Kazar.
For sure.
Or also you can, play some big cards later on in the game, and then if you've got 1 power left over, you just fill it in with a 1-cost card.
Yep.
Namor's like pretty good here. I rate Namor in this deck. If he's on his own, he gets +5, so he becomes like a 4/10. Is that right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Iron Man is just insane. Every ongoing deck needs Iron Man. Double the power at that location. Claw we already explained, and then Spectrum's the big one here. That's like the finisher.
Yeah.
What's Spectrum? It's +2 for all your ongoing cards.
So like I said,
it's a good deck.
Yeah, you don't have a ton of ongoing cards yet, but this is like your first taste of the ongoing mechanic. Later on, as you get more cards, you go into the other collections, the other pools of cards. Your Spectrum deck can get pretty insane. There's some crazy combos once you hit pool 3. So I think this is a great entry into ongoing, and I definitely would consider people checking it out.
Some synergies that I see is just like, you have Namor in a right lane on his own, so he's like at a 10.
Yeah.
And then you don't even have to put cards there to buff that location. You can have Mr. Fantastic, then the right location gets a +2, or you can have a Claw in the middle location and that right location gets a +6, and all of a sudden you got 1 card Namor on the right location, and it's at like what's that? Namor
16.
plus Claw plus Mr. Fantastic, 16. Like
Yeah.
that's 18 with Mr. Fantastic
Oh,
as
sorry,
well.
with Mr. Fantastic, yeah, it's 18. You're right.
That is insane
It's pretty good.
for a pool one cards only,
And you've still got turn 6.
one card at that location.
You've still got turn 6 to play Iron Man or Spectrum.
Iron Man or Spectrum, yeah.
It's good.
It is a really good deck.
Yeah.
I think when I first started, it was easier to play on reveals.
Yeah,
is
for
what
sure.
I found. I didn't play ongoing that much,
Yep.
but I think ongoing can get some higher powered locations.
For sure.
Definitely.
There's some broken combos that I've used with ongoing where you just get like 100 power or like infinite power almost at certain locations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think ongoing's fun archetype, and when you get to pool 2 and 3, there's some crazy fun ongoing cards. We mentioned earlier that we've been playing Patriot, which is also basically an ongoing deck. It's obviously very different to this one, but it's using the same mechanics. Urko just mentioned in the chat that pool 1 ends at 2:14, so we're pretty close. So it ends pretty soon. But this is great to, I think it gives you a bit of flexibility and a few options for pool 1. So this is the pool 1 ongoing deck. Al Damo in chat says, surprised not to see Onslaught in there. I guess you could play Onslaught. I think the thing with Onslaught is I guess with Claw, he's going to help you win that right location. So yeah, I guess
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, you definitely could. You're right. You definitely could.
But I think like with the other cards, Onslaught is not like huge. He doesn't add like a huge buff with the other cards.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's more like, even if you have Iron Man and then you're playing Onslaught with Iron Man, then you're committing like your turns 5 and 6 to one location.
Yeah, that's a fair point as well.
You know what I mean?
So how many ongoings can we get out? We can get Ant-Man, we can get Fantastic Punisher or Captain America, we can get Kazar, we can get Iron Man. So we can get 4 out. So that's +8. I guess Onslaught can technically give Claw like +12 to a location. Well, +6, I guess. And Mr. Fantastic. So yeah, I guess you could also try it out with Onslaught instead of Spectrum. It would also work quite well. Yeah, and Onslaught's, you get him at the start, yeah? Or is it like pool 1, yeah? I believe?
Onslaught, it's either a starter or pool 1.
Yeah, he's definitely not a pool 2. So you can definitely sub Onslaught in there for Spectrum as well. So there's a few options right off the bat, which is really cool. Thanks for that, El Damo. Cool. Let's get into, we won't like spend like tons of time. Yeah, he's pool 1, chat says. Perfect. So yeah, we'll go through them. We're not going to like go super in depth. If you do want to see these in depth, we've actually done videos on the channel for all of these decks, so you can actually see some gameplay of them. And link to the deck so you can copy and paste them directly into your Marvel Snap if you want to play them. So we've done all the hard work for you, which is good. Cool. So this is a discard aggro deck. Justin, I'm going to let you take this one because I know how much you love the discard archetype.
Discard decks are so good. I think like pool 1, I definitely hit my first infinite with a discard deck. It is just awesome, and it's, you know what, like it's easy to play. It's probably hard to master or hard to know when to play the cards, but after you play it a little bit, you just get the hang of it. Yep. So we got like similar on-cost cards because their versatility is probably great for pool 1.
You also don't have a ton of options.
You don't have a ton of options, but yeah, Ant-Man, Electrokorg, Nightcrawler again.
Yep.
Yondu is a good addition. What are you doing? You're discarding the top card of your opponent's deck. That's always good.
We've discussed Yondu on here before. I think in the early like pool 1, pool 2, I think it's fine to play Yondu. I feel like he's not actually a very good card. Purely because we discussed this before, where if you hit their finisher, they just retreat at 1 cube. But I feel like in the early game, like your first 500 to 1,000 collection level, you're going to be playing other people of similar skill level, and people are kind of snapping willy-nilly. So I think Yondu's fine. As you rank up, he's going to get less and less and less effective. Just a bit of a we've discussed that before. How he's not
agreed.
He's not an amazing card, but early on, guys, he's fun. He does a cool thing. So yeah, I think he's fine in this deck.
Yeah, Angela is awesome in this deck, especially with Nightcrawler there. You can get her to like a 2/9.
Yep, so 9 power, and then you've got tons of 1-cost cards to play there. Yep.
Yeah, correct. Wolverine's like good. You wouldn't add him in like a later discard deck, but with only the pool 1 cards, Wolverine's fine. You get like +3 power somewhere.
For free. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's right. Your discard cards are Blade, Lady Sif, Swordmaster, so you do not want to discard either of those 3 cards. You really need to try not to win this deck. You only want to discard Apocalypse or a 1-cost card because it doesn't matter too much.
So your ideal play, I guess, so we'll explain like what discards do. So Blade and Swordmaster discard a random card from your hand, and then Lady Sif is the special one where it discards the highest cost card in your hand. So your ideal play would be, I guess, Angela, like anything on turn 1 or nothing if you want to play him at Angela's location. Angela turn 2, maybe Lady Sif turn 3 if you've got Apocalypse in your hand, which we'll go through in a moment. And then maybe turn 4 Swordmaster Blade if you can.
Yeah, if you can. You can even, like, if you have the option, just leave the Wolverine in your hand because if Wolverine gets discarded, then he gets played.
Yeah, for sure. And then tell us about Apocalypse, the big boy of the deck.
So when Apocalypse is discarded from your hand, he returns to your hand with +4 power.
Yep.
It is insane.
Yeah.
Especially for pool 1. You can get him to some, or just say you discard him 3 times with Blade, Lady Sif, Swordmaster.
20.
He gets to 20 power, which is really cool. And America Chavez is in there for purely deck thinning. She won't. What's her ability?
Yeah, so you
draw her on turn 6.
You never draw Chavez before turn 6, which means you're more likely to draw the other cards in your deck before that. And it's also a bit of a fail-safe if you don't draw Apocalypse. You can always play a 9-power Chavez on turn 6. It's not the worst play if you're in a strong position. If you've got a big Angela and you play Chavez at another location with some, a couple of big power cards, you can win definitely.
It's a really strong deck. Just even if you're not sure on it, just give it a go and stick with it for like a couple of days because once it starts to click, then it really clicks.
Yeah, so Aldamo said in chat, Apocalypse feels like a pool 3 card, and I fully agree with that. I was just dominating early on with Apocalypse because what other cards can hit 20 power? There's like one card in the game with 20 power, and he has like a super downside where you have to play no cards the turn before. Whereas Apocalypse is just draw him and just try and buff him. And with manipulating your hand, lots of 1-cost cards, you can actually be pretty, you can target cards pretty well in this deck.
That's right. And Apocalypse is still viable where we are now in high pool 3. You can easily use a discard deck and they still use Apocalypse as not the build around card, but the highest power card in your deck.
You wouldn't play the deck, a pool 3 discard deck without Apocalypse.
Correct.
That's pretty I guess that's basically almost build around. And in later iterations of this discard deck, you can get him to you can have games where he gets to 30 power and it's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, you can even, with Dracula, just say you don't even have to play Apocalypse.
Insane.
And he helps another card get to +30 power. He's just insane.
He's a great card, guys. Don't sleep on Apocalypse. I don't think anyone ever did. But discard decks are fun. If you haven't played one yet, go and check it out. You can check out the list on the Twitter. Cool. And then our last pool 1 deck. So again, you'll be able to build all these decks very early. Justin, on reveal, another one of your favorites.
On reveal, I love on reveal. On reveal is it hits like a sweet spot in my heart. This is this is where you start the game with Odin. Odin's got to be one of my favorite cards. I was thinking about it today, and I've been playing an on reveal deck because of Karmatage, and it's all because of Odin.
Yeah,
he's awesome. In this deck, you play, a few 1-cost cards. A new one here is Rocket Raccoon, which we didn't see in the other decks. The good thing about Rocket Raccoon is sometimes I think, why would you want to play Rocket Raccoon? If you play him at a location and your opponent plays a card the same location on the same turn that you played him, it gets +2 power, right?
So if you play him, say your opponent plays a 1-cost on the left location, you do the same with Rocket. You've just got 4 power for a 1-cost card.
Correct.
Yes, it's not always gonna work, but when it does, it's just good.
Yes, but the awesome thing, which I started to see later on as I played on reveals more, is you can play him, right? He doesn't really do much. Say you miss his on reveal trigger, and then turn 6 is a location that you and your opponent are both fighting for. You play Odin here, they play a card, and it triggers Rocket's effect again, so he'll get a +4. +2, sorry. And they can change the game.
Yeah, it can. I think later in the game he's not as strong, but again, we're looking at, you're going to be versing people with similar card pools right now. So we're just trying to give you the best cards that you have access to right now. Obviously, a lot of these will change as you level up, but on that, a lot of these will stay the same. I mean, just looking at this deck, there's at least 10 cards there that are just staples in like top tier decks.
Yeah, so Scarlet Witch is a staple, I'd say. I know you vouch for Scarlet Witch all the time. When there's a bad location that doesn't suit your deck, you play Scarlet Witch, changes the location. That's awesome.
And you can
it's a game changer.
You can also hurt your opponent if they've got a good location.
Yes, correct.
Yep.
Ironheart's always good if it's +2 for 3 other cards.
Yep.
That's like a 3/6 basically, and then if you play Odin on her, then you get another 6 power spread across the board.
12 power.
Yeah, Wolfsbane, same thing. You've got some low cost cards in this deck, so Wolfsbane would usually pay off to get to a 3/7.
Yep.
That's on reveal +2 power for each card at that location.
Yep.
And then obviously Odin can trigger it twice.
Yep.
Enchantress will just shut down that last ongoing deck that we looked at. Enchantress can still shut down any ongoing deck pulls 1 through to 3.
If I had $1 for every time I've lost to Enchantress, look, let's just say I'd be retiring.
Yep, especially when I was playing Patriot.
Yep.
I'm sure you copped it as well.
Yep.
You play Patriot, and which is like the staple ongoing effect that you need.
If your ongoing,
shuts it down.
If your ongoing is shut off, you instantly lose.
Yeah. White Tiger and Spider Woman are good here as well. I think you'd probably see more play out of White Tiger early on, probably. That's what's that? Spawn a
7 power card somewhere else.
Token. Yeah. And then obviously Odin can trigger that again.
Yep.
So you're getting 5 cost for
14 power.
14 power plus the White Tiger itself 15 power.
15, yeah, you're right.
Pretty good.
And then
pretty good deck.
Yeah, and then Spider Woman, 7 power card, which is pretty good for a 5 cost. And it gives -1 to the cards on your opponent's side at that location. So if they've got a full location, -4, you play Odin there, they get another -4. You're getting a 7 power card and they're getting -8 at best case scenario. That's 15 power. That's huge.
Pretty good.
That's massive. So I think on reveal is really fun. There's Mr. Sinister in there as well that you miss. He just duplicates himself, so you end up with two power cards. Nothing crazy there either. And Cable, when you play Cable, you take the top card off your opponent's deck and put it in your hand. Some couple of 1 and 2 cost cards in there. But of course, you're building around Odin, and Enchantress is there to shut down those powerful ongoing abilities. I like this deck because you know your game plan, but you're also hindering your opponent, not just with their hand and their deck, but Spider-Woman is lowering their power. Enchantress is shutting off cards. I think it's very, you can react to your opponent a bit, and it's not a control deck, but it has elements of control in it.
Yeah,
and I think
it is good, with Electra and Scarlet Witch as well, hindering your opponent. It's a good deck. I like it.
Yep. I think it's like you said, there's actually a lot of interruption that's not like based on what's in their hand. Like it's not an Iceman that's adding +1 cost, or Scorpion that's lowering the power in hand. It's doing it all like on the field, which I think is good because you're learning to react to your opponent. You're not just, I play this card, I win. You're actually stopping your opponent from winning as well. So yeah, very cool deck. Guys, that's all our Pool 1 decks. So this is like, if you've just started the game, all of these decks are going to be great. Try them out. Find out what your favorite type is to play. And then once you hit Pool 2, we've got some Pool 2 cards we'll also go through. We'll kind of skip over the cards that we already know. But we'll go through... I
just want to ask you, actually, from those 3 decks for Pool 1, if you started the game again, which deck would you choose?
To be honest, for its simplicity, it's probably not the most powerful, but because it's easy to get people to understand, I actually think Discard is easy to understand once you... Maybe not your first few days, but once you understand the synergies, and they're not too complicated in Pool 1, I don't know, I think it's just a good mechanic to get your head around. It's a bit of RNG as well, which, I mean, can actually be kind of fun early on in the game. Obviously, if you're coming from a card game background, you might prefer it to be very rigid and structured and not too much RNG. But we just have to accept Marvel Snap has a ton of RNG with the cards, with the locations mostly. Random locations is just like spanner in the works every time. Like my Patriot deck, I get ongoing is disabled here. I get cards can't be played here. And then I get after turn 4, cards can't be played here. And I'm just like, I lose. So sometimes that just happens. And I mean, that's just the nature of the game. So yeah, I'd start with discard. What about you?
I would definitely start with discard.
Yep.
Actually, I wouldn't, but if I was giving the advice to new players, I would say start with discard.
Yep.
Like you said, it's probably the one of the easiest decks to play, and also one of the most successful early on. But if
Yep.
I were to go back, knowing what I know now, I would play the ongoing deck. I think that has the most potential, but it is probably a little bit more skill and maths. Maybe.
I think even beyond maths, you have to be very deliberate with where you play your cards.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas discard, you can be a little bit more, I guess, like a little bit more lazy, and just because your discard cards are so strong, you can be a little bit, like a little bit more free, I guess. Whereas, for sure, ongoing is a bit more involved. You got to think about the locations where you're playing cards, etc. Cool. So Justin, do you want to go through this ongoing? Just skip over like cards we have, just mention them, I guess.
Yeah, so
go
this
for it.
ongoing Pool 2 deck, this is probably one of the ones that I used in Pool 2. I think probably one of the build around cards is definitely Devil Dino. He's seen a couple of changes, but at the moment he's a 5/3 and gives +2 power to each card in your hand.
Yep.
So you're trying to maximize your hand size, and you're doing that with Agent 13, who is, it gets you an extra random card. Mantis gets you an extra card if played at the right spot. Cable guarantees you an extra card.
Yep.
Sentinel copies himself and puts him into your hand. So that's like, four cards, which are getting you an extra card in your hand.
Yeah.
Moon Girl just duplicates your whole hand, which is insane.
Yep.
The Collector is probably one of the more important cards in this deck. He's a 2/1 and he gets +1 power for each card that ends up in your hand that you don't draw. What's the wording?
So it's cards that go to your hand but not from drawing. So obviously drawing drawing a card from your deck doesn't count, or cards that make you draw cards don't count. But anywhere else is +1.
So all of those cards that I just went through, Agent 13, Mantis, Cable, Sentinel, and Moon Girl, are adding power to the Collector, which is awesome. Mr. Fantastic is a good addition into the deck, just spreading 2 power across the board.
Yep.
Iron Man can get, paired with Devil Dino, can get some crazy numbers.
Yeah.
But also just for versatility, even if you're at an average power at a location, you can bump that right up.
Yep.
Claw is always good to spread some power across the board. Onslaught on a Devil Dino or an Iron Man is insane.
Yep.
Or even a Claw, actually. Even a Claw. Any of those three with Onslaught is just insane.
Yep.
And Chavez probably, again, just for that deck thinning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think something to understand as a new player is that like Chavez, like when we say deck thinning, Chavez being, because you never draw it before turn 6, it means for the first 5 turns you're only drawing from those 11 cards. So it's not a massive percentage, but you have a better chance of drawing those cards before Chavez. And obviously having Chavez before turn 6 is a complete waste because you can't play her. So any other card is going to be more beneficial. And yeah, like people underestimate having one less card in your deck essentially for those first 5 turns is actually massive. And then it's great because she's if it was just a 0 cost card with that ability, we'd be like, yeah. But the fact that you also get that fail safe of, if I'm in a decent position, I can still play this to win the game.
The guaranteed 9 power on turn 6 if you have nothing else. Yeah.
Yep.
It can easily win you the game, and it will do in like your early time playing the game.
It's just a strong card. That's right.
It's a good deck. One that I probably used a lot early on.
Yep. That's cool. So that's kind of like, this is like an upgraded version of the Pool 1 sort of ongoing. So we've still got a lot of the cards in there, but we've now got the Collector. We've got Moon Girl. I think Agent 13 we also get in Pool 2. So we've got a bunch of cards now that I guess we can capitalize on. And it makes, the deck a lot stronger. The Collector's really, really cool, I think.
Also, probably something to note as well, playing Moon Girl on turn 4 can duplicate any of the higher cost the 5 cost cards like a Claw, Devil Dino, or Iron Man, and then you can play them twice, once on turn 5 and once on turn 6, which is also insane.
Yeah, you could double play 2 Devil Dinos, 2 Claws, 2 Iron Mans. For sure, that's exactly correct. Important thing with Moon Girl for new players, you've probably already figured this out. You cannot have more than 7 cards in your hand. And we've lost Justin. That's right. He'll be back in a second. This happens every week. He's finally gotten an Ethernet cable that he's setting up for next week, so he won't cut out anymore. because he always cuts out. He's back.
There's my weekly dropout.
Yeah, I was just explaining to everyone that you've got an Ethernet cable now, so you're going to be able to fix it for next week.
Yes, definitely.
Which is good.
We're ready to go next week.
So yeah, what I was saying is, so important thing with Moon Girl is you can only have 7 cards in hand, and this is how I learnt this. I played Moon Girl. I had like 5 cards in my hand, and it was only the first 2 cards that came into my hand, the leftmost cards. And I was like, oh, what the heck happened? I wanted Iron Man. I didn't get Iron Man. I didn't get Devil Dinosaur. And then I realized that 7 is the max hand size, very important. If you play something like a Sentinel or a Cable, that card will not go to your hand if your hand is full for for whatever other reason. So very important. So like if you played Moon Girl and Sentinel on turn 6, nothing's going to go to your hand generally because Moon Girl just copied it all. So yeah,
you definitely learn hand sizes the hard way playing this deck.
Deck if you're not careful. So yeah, if you've got 4 cards in your hand after playing Moon Girl, that 4th card to the right will not get duplicated. And you have that's exactly so that's Moon Girl's cool, but if you've got like 5-6 cards in your hand, Moon Girl's not as powerful, obviously. But more cards in your hand, better for Devil Dinosaur. It gets a nice big buff.
Yeah.
So it is very much about managing your hand size. I think a little bit of a higher skill level deck as well, but you're going to find that with these pool 2 and pool 3 decks. But nonetheless, I think it's a fun deck to play at pool 2. Next up, this is essentially an evolution of the discard archetype. So we already went through the pool 1 discard. This is the pool 2 discard. So we've added Iceman in here. Iceman adds +1 cost to a card in our opponent's hand. Doesn't sound like much, but if you hit, the card they're about to play next turn and all of a sudden they can't, it can be pretty big. So Iceman's a good interruption. Again, we've got the usuals. We've got Angela in there. We've got Nightcrawler. We've got Ant-Man. Just good 1-cost cards that you have access to early on. Blade is one of our discard cards. We've got Lady Sif and we've got Swordmaster still. So we've got the same cards, discarding cards. But Justin, do you want to tell us about the important additions here?
Swarm is insane, and also I just love this deck. This is a more accurate deck to what I played. Hitting infinite. So when Swarm gets discarded from your hand, you add 2 copies of Swarm back into your hand. Pairing that with Nakia, which is a 3/1, and she or he. Is that a she or a he? She. And what is Nakia from? Is that from Black Panther?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I do not remember the character. Apologies. Nakia adds +2 power to the 2 leftmost cards in your hand.
Correct.
So you wanna play Nakia while Swarm is one of the 2 most left cards in your hand.
Yep.
Because Swarm will go to a
5 power.
2 cost 5 power.
Yep.
And then when you discard Swarm, you get 2 0/5 powered swarms in your hand, which is just insane.
It's so crazy.
Also, we added Bishop to this deck, 3/1, and when you play a card, he gets +1 power. Really good, really stable. Love this deck.
Yeah. So the thing with Bishop is if you're filling your board with swarms like that, sometimes you'll discard Swarm with Blade, then again with Swordmaster. And so now you've got, 3 cards that you're going to play on turn 6, essentially, because they cost 0. Plus all your 1 costs. You can fill the board sometimes. So Bishop, getting him out turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, turn 6. You're playing a lot of cards generally. So he can actually get decent. And you can play him at locations that get locked down as also, which is a big use for him.
In an ideal world, you will fill all location spots with this deck.
Yep.
Which means Bishop will get to if you play him on turn 3,
like 6 or 7, 8.
Yeah, he can get to 7 or 8.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. So like this is the upgraded discard. This is essentially what I played to get to Infinite. I think I pretty much played this list for 1 whole season to get to Infinite, and then I did it like an upgraded pool 3 version the next season. Because it just worked. It was just been working. It's good. I've been playing other decks now, obviously. I was playing other decks, but I was kind of like just when I really wanted to focus in and go for Infinite, it was just this was what I played nonstop.
Me too. I was relying on the discard deck to raise the ranks. Otherwise, I was playing decks just for fun. It does get repetitive, and it is a bit of RNG. Sometimes you'll have Blade in your hand turn 1, and you'll have like Swarm Apocalypse and something else that you need, like a sword master.
Yeah.
And then you'll think, oh, there's like, 66.67% chance that I discard a Swarmer Apocalypse.
Yeah.
A card that I want ends up discarding the wrong thing, and then you're kind of screwed.
For sure. But here's a pro tip. So let's say you play, say it's like turn 3 and you can go like Angela and then you can go Blade, and you hold off on playing the Blade because, I don't know, maybe you've got Swarm, Apocalypse, and like Swordmaster in your hand. And you're like, oh, but next turn I can play like Swordmaster and Blade. That's way better. And like, yes, you're right. But if you play the Blade and discard Swarm or Apocalypse, you're getting my example is probably more. I actually do this a lot on turn 1. Tell me if you do the same. If I've got Blade, no Angela in hand, I've got other 1-cost cards in no other 1-cost cards. You play Blade, yeah. I don't hold Blade unless I have I know I've got Angela in my hand and I'm waiting to use him for that. Because the thing is, if he misses what you wanted him to hit, you can just retreat and lose 1 cube. Whereas,
yeah, it really depends what I have in hand. If I have Blade and I don't have a Swarm or Apocalypse, I probably won't. I won't play him because I don't want to discard anything. But
for sure,
if it's turn 1 and I've got like
Swarm and Apocalypse in hand,
Swarm and Apocalypse, I'd definitely do it. If I had one of them, it depends what the other card is.
Yeah.
Like if I had another discard card, I may not, because you need those discard cards. But if it's just another 1-cost card, a couple of 1-cost cards, yeah, you probably would do it.
So my thing is, like, if Blade hits Swarm on turn 1, and like say, and you get, you've now got 2 3-cost cards for free. If another discard card hits them, you've now got 3 of them. And then, like you said with Nakia, if Nakia buffs Swarm, and you have that, I don't know, 33% chance that you're going to hit him, or you're going to hit something good, that 33% chance that you hit Swarm is just going to put you in an amazing position to win the game. And if you wait and then you don't get the chance to discard it, then both times you end up losing. So I think sometimes you just got to like play to the RNG and hope for the best.
Yeah, because what can happen later in the game, if you don't play Blade initially, then you can end up with like Blade, Lady Sif, and Swordmaster in your hand, and then you're kind of screwed.
Yep.
Then like it's hard to win the game from there.
Yeah.
Because you're going to discard one of them anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it says as you play the deck, you actually just learn this stuff. Like, it is a lot of trial and error. But don't be afraid to, like, if it's a 50-50, don't be afraid to play the discard card, because if you hold it till turn 5 and then something bad happens with a location, and now all of a sudden you can't play cards there, or you now have, like you said, if you got Swordmaster and Lady Sif turn 5, you can't play both of them. Yep. So you've just wasted a card that could have given you a massive advantage. So yeah, it's a bit of trial and error, but fantastic deck, absolutely love it. And this is our last Pool 2 deck that we're going to go through, and I thought I'd throw in a fun one here. Here we have the Pool 2 move deck. Now, the reason there's no Pool 1 move deck is because you don't actually have access to a lot of these cards until Pool 2. I really enjoy the move archetype. Basically, for those that are still early in the game, basically what you're doing is you're moving cards around the locations to get buffs, and you're like duplicating cards, doing all crazy shenanigans. There's not really any other decks that do the things that the move cards do. Like multiple man duplicates himself. So you got a bunch of crazy interactions. We'll go through the deck list. If you like doing math, this deck is for you. So a lot of calculations involved. There's a lot of combo-y things in this deck. Pretty high skill level compared to, probably the highest skill level compared to the other decks we've gone through. But it's also a ton of fun. I wouldn't call this a super like top tier deck, but it can put out some crazy power, especially early on. We'll go through the cards. So Iron Fist, 1-cost card, 2 power. When you play him, it moves a card. The reason we basically want to be moving cards all the time because they get buffs from that. We've got Nightcrawler in here. Can't have a moving card without Nightcrawler, Justin.
Very true. Nightcrawler every deck. Use him.
So some other cards that help move. We've got Cloak here. On the next turn, you and your opponent can move cards to Cloak's location. Obviously, your opponent can move cards too, but you're the one getting the buffs from the movement. We've got Doctor Strange, who also moves cards. He moves the highest cost card on your side to his location. The reason that's important is the cards that benefit from this. We've got Multiple Man. He's a 3-power card for 2 cost. When he moves, he duplicates himself back to his original location. So if we can buff him, we've got cards like Forge to buff Multiple Man. After you play Forge, the next card gets +2. So if you've got a 5-power Multiple Man and then we move him, we get 2 5-power cards for the 2 costs. It's pretty good. And you've also got Hulkbuster in there. Hulkbuster essentially merges with another card and adds its power to it. So you free up a slot on the board, and you can get multiple man to like 7 power. You can even get him to 9 power if you have a lot of luck. And just duplicating a 9 power card all over the board is just nuts. So multiple man, very key to the deck. Justin, do you want to go through we'll go through Craven and the rest?
Yeah, so Craven, when a card is moved to this location, Craven gets +2 power. I think Craven is good. He's definitely good, probably because of Heimdall. But first I'll go through Vulture. Vulture, when he's moved, he gets +5 power. And then Heimdall moves everything
to the
one
left.
location to the left.
So that's so Heimdall's go.
Yeah, so Heimdall is like your finisher kind of thing. But like Richie said, you need to do a lot of math to get this deck going.
Yep.
Heimdall, I was just going to say, also helps Craven, because if you've played Craven
like in the middle,
and he moves to the left and he's like in the middle, but the first spot on the left, your first spot on that location, and he moves, then he'll get +2 for the 3 other cards moved to his location.
So he'll get +6.
He can get pretty beefy. I just think, like, with the move deck, this early on, I did try move decks because they can get to some crazy powers. Like, if you can move, it's something as simple as, something as simple as playing Vulture turn 3. Playing, say, Doctor Strange turn 4, moving the Vulture, he gets +5, he's now at 8. And then playing, like, a Cloak turn 5.
Moving stuff there.
Moving stuff there, including Vulture, that's like 13, and then Heimdall on turn 6. Your Vulture is 18 power. Like 3 cost 18 power. That is insane, and it'll happen more often than you think. But it just requires so much math, and with multiple men, because he's multiplying himself to different locations, I feel that if you just have a 2-3 multiple man, and you're duplicating him all across the board, then
it fills up the board.
It fills up the board. It's kind of not worth it. You play Heimdall and you just get all these like 3 powered multiple mans like all across the board. It's like not great.
And so that's where the math thing comes in. You actually need to be like actively thinking about, okay, when I play Heimdall and these cards move, what's going where? Am I accidentally blocking? Like, there's times where multiple men will duplicate and you forget about it, and now all of a sudden the Vulture you thought was moving will not have enough room, and so it doesn't move. My suggestion, if you want to play this move deck, definitely play it. It's a ton of fun, but you need to actually like play it a ton before it's going to click, and you're going to understand all the synergies, because even with the locations, it can really do some crazy stuff to the deck. Like if you get Sinister London where it duplicates cards, sometimes duplicating cards to the wrong place means you can't move stuff there. It is very intricate. I think out of all these pool 1 and 2 decks, move decks are definitely the highest skill level, and I'd say that's why they're played probably the least, but in no way are they bad. I think it's a fun archetype. There's actually some unreleased cards that involve the move archetype that Marvel Snap have from some data mining. They've actually been unveiled. They are subject to change, but we know that they're supporting the move archetype. They're not just abandoning it. There are cards coming to help it out. We've got someone in the chat that says, why does Chavez feature in so many pool 1 and 2 decks? Because to finish off the move deck, we've got Chavez. And it pretty much goes back to what we were saying earlier. You're thinning your deck, so it's one less card that you're going to draw during turns 1 to 5, which means you're more likely to draw the cards that you actually can play on those turns. And then you've also got that fail safe. I don't think there's the only other card that is higher than 9 power in these pools, I think, is Hulk at 12 power. I believe so.
Yeah, Hulk and Infinite is pool 1, I think.
Yeah, but like he's got a pretty bad downside to
ability.
Him. So let's say like Hulk is your only other real option in these pools, and if you draw him turn 1, it's a dead card. Chavez is 3 less power, but you never draw it before turn 6. It's just infinitely better in terms of like thinning your deck. Yeah, it's a really cool ability. And I don't think people realized early on in Marvel Snap how good that ability was, because it does thin your deck. You're essentially playing with an 11 card deck for 5 turns, which means you're more likely to draw the cards you need. That's pretty much why it's in so many decks. And it's your fail safe.
It's your failsafe.
Yeah.
I think something also important to note with the move deck is it's so easily influenced by locations, which is a bad thing.
Yep.
And that's why maybe I would include a Scarlet Witch in here.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you definitely can. Yeah, there's definitely you could
Maybe.
replace something. Maybe Nakia gets replaced. Oh, Nakia is good with multiple men too, though.
Nakia is good. Yeah, like also another comment I'd have on this deck is I wouldn't really be playing multiple man unless I could buff him.
But you've got so many options. Oh, like you're just saying in general, you don't play him if you don't get the buff.
In general, if I didn't play a Forge and then multiple man, or buff him with a Nakia,
you mean multiple men then Forge?
No, Forge then multiple man.
Sorry, Forge. I'm thinking Hulkbuster. Continue.
Yeah, Forge then multiple man,
Yes.
Nakia on a multiple man, or a Hulkbuster on a multiple man. Then
yep.
I probably wouldn't play multiple man unless I could buff him in some way, shape, or form. Because it's just not great.
I think it depends. If you're not going to fill up the board and multiple man's going to move regardless, then play him. But like, I get what you're saying. If it's going to clog up your board and you're not going to be able to move something like a Vulture, then yeah, you wouldn't play it. But that's you'll learn that as you play the deck. Trust me.
But move decks like it's hard. Definitely a fun deck to play.
Yes, they're fun.
A fun deck to play.
They're hard. It's one of the harder decks, and that's why you don't see it as often. And it's also like not super, like it's not broken or anything. So people just gravitate to the broken decks. Cool.
And one of the things that was happening when I was playing this deck is like I would be on turn 5, and then like doing my turn 6 turn, and I just would not know how my board state is going to end up, and I couldn't be doing the math.
Got to do the math, man. That's the whole point of the deck. If you want to play it well, you got to do the math.
That's right.
All right, so let's check out. We're going to check out the history of Marvel Snap. Now, it is quite a new game, and when I say history, we're not going to take a look before the game came out in beta, but we are going to take a look at some of the changes that new players haven't actually experienced, and all players that have been playing through the beta or returning players for global launch, you're going to know some of these things, some of these changes that were made. You're going to remember the days before these changes and think, wow, what a time to be alive in the Marvel Snap universe. So let's go through. I've got a bit of a little list here. Now, I didn't bring up images of the cards, but you're going to know most of these cards, guys, because a lot of them you get quite early in the game. So we were discussing Iron Man before. Now, there wasn't any like changes per se to Iron Man, but early on in Marvel Snap's like history, when people were learning the game, learning decks, people wrote off Iron Man completely. Because he was a 0 power card, like, yeah, he doubles, but, I mean, he only wins you one location. How do you win the other locations? Blah, 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 blah. And then once, like, we had things like Sinister London that could copy Iron Man, and we had, like, you know, these other ongoing cards that were pretty broken. Not broken, but other ongoing cards that are really good. And, you know, Spectrum can buff them. Iron Man can do some, like, ridiculous things. And I've seen games where, like, they play Iron Man turn 5, and there's no other cards at that location. And I'm like, oh, this is like, okay, this is fine. And then, you know, they have like, you know, there might be Elysium where cards cost 1 less. And all of a sudden they like play a bunch of cards there and get like 20, 30 power. And I'm like, why? I had no chance that entire time. Iron Man can just get you like to like, you can get locations to like 50 plus and it's pretty nuts. Thoughts on Iron Man?
Iron Man is insane.
Yeah.
Like Iron Man, he's not like a card where on a location alone he will win you that location.
Yeah.
But like you can, like you said, you can get like you and your opponent committing to a location, and all it takes is no matter what else they play, unless it's another Iron Man, all it takes is for you to play an Iron Man, and you have just won. Most of the time, won that location.
Yeah, like if it's they play, yeah.
And there's nothing that they can do about it unless it's like an Enchantress or something.
Yep.
And then also there's Mystique, which is probably a special mention. You can play Iron Man turn 5 at a location, and then Mystique turn 6, which copies Iron Man's
That's
ability.
So stupid.
Yeah,
it's like just a billion power. So yeah, I thought we'd say because Iron Man was like kind of written off early, and then people realized how did we think this was bad? Now we're going to go through some of the changes to cards. Let's go through cards that you have access to early on. So we've got the Collector, which we discussed in our ongoing hand size deck. Collector used to be +2 power for every card added to your hand. Now you can imagine with cards like Moon Girl, if you had 3 cards in your hand, Moon Girl get, you know, +3 cards in your hand, that's +6 power. Pretty crazy. And then all of those 1-cost cards that add cards to your hand are giving Collector +2 power. So Collector could end up like 12 plus from like pool 2 onwards in a game.
I was getting in that deck that we looked at before, that Dino and Collector deck.
Yeah.
I was using that, and Collector was getting like similar levels to Devil Dino.
It's crazy.
So I was getting him to like 15 power easily each game, which is just insane for a 2-cost card. He was cracked.
That really is insane. Now, a note for some of these cards that we're going to talk about, a lot of these cards were heavily used in Pool 1 and Pool 2 decks. Because of the changes to them, they're not as heavily used. So you might not see many deck lists using some of these cards, but some of these cards used to be absolutely insane. So next up, we have Nakia. So we've showcased Nakia in a few decks today. Her ability now is the 2 leftmost cards get +2. It used to be all cards in your hand got +2 power. So if you had 5, 6 cards in your hand, they all got +2. Why is this completely insane, Justin?
This is completely insane because for a 3-cost card, you are getting, like, just say you had even just like 4 cards in hand, you are getting like 8 power for a 3-cost card. And some of those cards may be things like, the discard deck we looked at before. If you have Swarm in hand, you are definitely getting that Swarm
every time
to 5 power every time. It's so consistent. And if it's like, the move decks, for instance, you are getting every card in hand, like multiple man, to +2 power. Like the consistency
he's
was
5
just
every
crazy.
time. So you think like you get him to 5, you play a Forge, you get him to, you play Nakia, get him to 5, Forge, play him, get him to 7, Hulkbuster, get him to like 11, 12. It's just, it was crazy.
I think it was the consistency that was just insane. It would happen like every game. Every game it was happening. So pretty crazy.
Playing that in discard, it was just like the most broken deck. Like you just always won.
Not only is it buffing your Swarm, but then like
your Apocalypse,
then your Apocalypse and all your other cards are getting +2. Like, how is that fair?
I don't think there was one deck in the game that didn't run that card.
Yeah, it made every deck better.
You just had to run. You just had to run it. It was like we talk about staples in Marvel Snap, but depending on what deck you play, there's no deck that has there's no card that is in every single deck. At one point, that definitely pretty much was. Because it just was never a bad card to play if you had cards in hand. So that's what Nakia used to be. I know a lot of people will remember that and be like, yep, it was crazy. Justin, you gave me a few here. So a couple of these cards are cards that you unlock later in the game. But I think Strong Guy is a pool 1 or 2 card. I think you get Strong Guy quite early on. So Strong Guy's ability is it's pretty cool. So he's a 4 power, a 4-cost card now. And he has 4 power. And if there's no cards in your hand, so essentially at the end of the game, you want to play all your cards, he would go to +6. So he would end up on 10 power for 4 costs, which is pretty good, wouldn't you say, Justin? Like, it's okay.
Yeah, 4 cost, 10 power, pretty good.
It's okay. Before this, he used to be a 2-cost card, and he had 3 power. So you essentially got him to a 2-cost card to 9 power.
That's insane.
Like, just sitting here and like thinking about it is now... We actually didn't get to play. We didn't have the beta in Australia before. We got the beta after this change happened. So we never actually got to experience Strong Guy at 2 power, at 2 cost. I've played decks with him even at 4 cost, and they were pretty good. So I can only imagine how stupid he was. A chat has said that he's pool 1. So you were getting that card very early on. And again, like if you had a card with a lot of 1-cost cards, you're swarming the board. You've got Kazar there who like buffs all the 1-cost, and then you play Strong Guy on turn 2, and then like you've got 4 turns to play other cards to get them out of your hand, whereas now you only have 2 turns to get all the cards out of your hand. It's just crazy.
That's a crazy card. I haven't really played much with Strong Guy, but I can see the potential if he was a 2-cost.
Yeah, I played him early on, even at 4-cost, and he was like kind of good in the early stages of the game. That's pretty nuts. Speaking of discard, this is a pool 3 card, so a lot of you wouldn't have unlocked this if you've just started playing, but Hellcow is a really cool card in discard because he discards 2 random cards from your hand. So if you've got Swarm and Apocalypse in hand, he discards both. Fantastic, really, really good card for the discard deck. He is a 4-cost card and he has 6 power, so very similar to like Swordmaster, 6 power, but he discards 2 cards from hand, which is great in a discard deck. What did he used to be, Justin? Do you know? because we didn't get to play with this either, unfortunately.
Yeah, this was before my time. I don't know what power he was, but I know that he was a 2-cost card.
And he was still 6 power.
Wow. I can't imagine that because now, like when I play Hellcow now, even if you start with Hellcow in hand, you're playing so many cards before you actually get to play him that your hand changes so much. But with Hellcow starting in your hand and getting to play him on turn 2, like that is just insane.
So think of this. So you've got your starting hand is like Blade, Hellcow, Apocalypse, and you start the game and you draw Swarm. So you play Blade, it hits like the Swarm, and you play Hellcow and you're just guaranteed to discard both of them. By turn 2.
You've basically won the game on turn 2.
That's just, and then every card you're drawing, you're essentially, I guess, just playing. But like, it's pretty nuts. Yeah, that one still like rattles my brain.
Yeah, they kind of look like they looked at like discarding cards as a bad thing.
Yes, that's the only explanation.
But then once you put together like a solid discard deck with like Apocalypse and Swarm, it is not a bad thing to discard cards.
No, so that's definitely I feel like that's definitely the impression I get based on this nerf. Like that is cheaper than Swordmaster, and it's like Swordmaster only discards 1 card, so this is stronger. But you have to discard 2 cards. That must be a bad thing. And then when we realize, wait, that's fantastic. That's just, it's nuts to think about. I wish we got to play with that just to like actually experience it, because I feel like that would have been crazy. Cool. So then we've got, you mentioned this one. Okoye used to be a 1-cost card, 1 power, and her ability is all cards in your deck get +1 power. So similar to Nakia, that it just makes your deck better. What is Okoye now? A 2-cost card, correct?
A 2/2, yeah.
A 2/2. So it's a little bit more power, but you're not buffing cards till turn 2. So you're getting 1 less card. It's taking up your turn 2 slot. What do you think about it at 1 cost? Would you play it?
I would definitely play it.
Yeah.
Like when you look at 1-cost cards, they're not like, some of them have cool abilities, but usually it's not like a game-changing card.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what
right.
I mean? But with Okoye playing her at on turn 1, you're buffing every single card in your deck. Every card that you're drawing from there on has +1 power. And again, you're not taking up your turn 2 slot. You can play like, you got like Angela or some cards that can be strong on turn 2.
For sure.
Turn 1, not so much. So I reckon that was pretty OP.
So like even in discard deck, I used to play Okoye at 2 power, at 2 cost. So you had that to buff, you had Nakia to buff. But if I've got that turn 1, I'm playing that in a lot of different decks, that need, power buffs. Like a move deck, if you play Okoye turn 1, your multiple man's now at 4.
Yeah.
Then you get it in hand, Nakia gets it to 6. Like it's like that's a lot better. At 1 power that's pretty like, it's not, I don't think it's like crazy broken, but it's not a much better card.
It's just more consistent.
For sure.
More consistency. Yeah.
Now chat has said that referring to Hellcow, it was actually in a bunch of other decks, and then on turn 6 you would just play it for big stats. So like like if you play Sarah makes all cards in your hand cost 1 less. He would have become a 1-cost card, 6 power for 1 cost.
That's crazy.
And then you play a bunch of cards, you're not discarding anything in your hand, it's the last turn. That's crazy. That is crazy. It wasn't even like, it didn't even need to be played in discard.
Yeah, discard. It's just for stats. Yeah.
Crazy. We actually, because Australia got the beta later, we got like a month and a half after the game had been released, the first beta players. So we did miss out on these, unfortunately. We actually just didn't have access to it. So some more recent ones we've got here. Actually, Nova was one you brought up as well. We didn't get to experience this either. No, we did. We experienced this very early on, didn't we?
I don't know if we did, but like I did not see this played that much. But I know that when I've listened to other people talk about Marvel Snap who were in the beta earlier than us, like all they talk about is Nova Carnage.
Yeah, it would have been crazy.
Nova Carnage. So Nova used to be, when Nova is destroyed, it's +2 power to your board.
On your board.
So if you're, and Nova is a 1-cost card, Carnage is a 2-cost card. So you can just play a normal game, right? In a destroyed deck, but even in just any deck, you're playing a normal game. You're leaving 1 location open, and then you're on turn 6. You can play a 3-cost card or like a couple of smaller cards.
Then play both of them.
And then you just play like Nova Carnage, and it buffs like every card on your board +2 power. That is insane.
That is actually insane, because I think of it like the way we do that now. Like if I want to buff all ongoing cards, only ongoing cards, I have to play a 6-cost card to do that, and it's only specific cards. Or Patriot.
Yeah.
Patriot is the same, +2, but it's very specific cards that have no abilities, which aren't helping your board other than power. So the fact that you could just do that on turn 3 and still play another 3-cost card is like pretty nuts.
It's crazy, and I think it was being played a lot with like Kazoo decks. So you would get like Kazaa with a bunch of 1-cost cards. You've basically filled the board, and then you're destroying your Nova, and they're all getting +1 from Kazaa, +2 from Nova, and it's just like game changing.
That's disgusting.
I think it was pretty toxic, to be honest. Like everyone was playing it.
For sure, it's like I think of the way that we achieve that now is so much work, and like you have to do it on turn 6. You can't play anything else generally, and then you're just doing it to your entire board every like most games. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I even think like Iron Man. Like if you have a location with Iron Man and it's looking pretty grim, and you got a bunch of 1-cost cards and you're like 12 power. You add 8 power there. You're now adding an extra 16 power.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. 4 cards get +2, and your Iron Man's gone from like a full location that can't how do we buff this? Maybe Kazaa gets at +8 with or no, like with 3 1 cost, he gets like +6. Now all of a sudden you get +16. That's nuts. Yeah, that's like I can just see how broken that would have been, and I can see why that got changed very quickly. Now, we've got Jubilee here. Now, Jubilee is a really cool card. I think it's a pool 2 card, I want to say. So when you play Jubilee, when you play other cards at that location, it puts them back in the deck. So their on reveals happen. So it's great with on reveal cards. So you play an Ironheart. Ironheart buffs 3 cards with +2 power. Then it goes back into the deck, and another card comes out. Oh no, sorry, I'm like talking the wrong card. Jubilee pulls a card out from your deck and plays it at the location. I was describing Lockjaw completely. You should have just cut me off. So Jubilee is a weak card. It's only 1 power and it's a 4-cost card, but it could potentially pull out a 20 power Infernaut from your deck or a 12 power Hulk. It can do some crazy stuff. The problem was that its old ability was on reveal, play the top card of your deck to this location. So Justin explained to me what the issue with this card was and what this ability's issue was.
So like the chat was saying why is Chavez so popular, and it is so popular now, but while Jubilee had this ability, pull the top card of your deck into this location, Chavez Jubilee was in every deck, and it's because the way that the game works is Chavez is shuffled into your deck, but you can only pull her on turn 6. So turns 1 to 5, if she was on top of your deck, instead of pulling her, you would pull the next card. So she would still remain on top of your deck. And that's still how it works, I think. Chavez still remains on top of your deck. So by Jubilee pulling the top card of your deck, she is more often than not pulling Chavez, because in turns 1 to 5, Chavez could have been the top card and she is remaining on top of your deck if she has ever been on top of your deck. So you're more than likely going to pull Chavez when you play Jubilee.
I understand now. So if she was shuffled to, let's say, the second spot in your deck, so turn 1 you draw a card, Chavez now becomes the top card, and it stays there for the rest of the game. That's how the game's coded. I understand now. So it's not like it's hidden from your deck and you always draw, and then it appears turn 6. It's actually in the deck and it keeps its location. Like it's like, so if it's I guess that makes sense. So you basically had a higher chance of pulling Chavez than any other card, essentially.
Than any other card.
Like over the long run, like over 100 games, you're going to pull Chavez more than the other cards. That's pretty crazy, actually. So it wasn't like a super, like it's not a crazy broken combo, but getting a 9 power like more often than not, I mean, that's pretty cool. So
I think and like the rate was pretty high. Like you start with 12 cards in deck. You get what, 3 cards? You start with 3 cards in your hand.
Draw a 4th one.
Is that right?
Yeah, you draw the 4th one turn 1.
Yeah, so you draw 4. Yeah, 4th turn 1, 5th turn
5,
2,
6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so you end up with 3 cards generally left in deck.
You end up with 3 cards left in deck. So and none of those first 9 cards that you pulled could have been Chavez. So you're gonna pull Chavez like what 9 out of 12 times or 10 out of 12
Yeah,
times.
it's pretty crazy.
It's
Yeah.
insane. That is insane.
It's pretty nuts. So I can see why now the ability is just a random card from your deck to avoid it being Chavez most of the time.
Yeah.
Cool. So these are some more recent ones. So these only happened in the last month or so. So these are quite fresh for us as well. The first one is Ronin. So Ronin was a super underused card. No one played it. It's basically the opposite of Devil Dinosaur. Devil Dinosaur has +2 for each card in your hand, whereas Ronin was +2 for every card in your opponent's hand. They buffed him up to +3 power for each card in your opponent's hand, and he became a 5-cost card 3 power, which is how Devil Dinosaur is now. 5 costs 3 power. But the ability became +3 power. So if your opponent had 6 cards in hand, you were getting, 6, 12, 18 power. That's crazy. People were playing this in a ton of decks. It was getting heaps of play for maybe like 3 weeks, maybe a month max. And then so he was I think he was he was originally a 4-cost card? 4-0?
I think he was a 4-0.
4 cost, 0 power, but he only got +2. Then they changed him to 5-3, +2, 3 power. Then I think
they changed him to a 5-0 with
5-0. Sorry,
power.
You're correct. 5-0 with +3 power, which would get you to 18. So potentially you could get to 21 if they had a full hand.
Yeah.
Which is if they were playing a Devil Dinosaur, you were going to get to a higher number than their Devil Dinosaur. And then what happened was they reverted it. They basically they nerfed it. So big buff, big nerf, and he went to a 5-cost card, 3 power. And +2 for each card in your hand. So he's essentially identical now to Devil Dinosaur, but it's cards in your opponent's hand, rather than in your hand. And again, 0 play. I've literally not seen a Ronin since. Because he's just a worse version of Devil Dinosaur.
In my experience, I had no idea who Ronin was. Then they buffed him. All of a sudden, everyone was using him. I was using him, especially in a Mr. Negative deck, because he was a 5-0 with an insane ability.
Yep.
And now I haven't seen him since.
Literally haven't seen once.
That buff only lasted it was that small gap between those 2 patches. I think it was only 2.5 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, 2-3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. So the last card, and this was probably the most talked about card in the last, let's say 2 months maybe, that is Mr. Negative. Now, Mr. Negative is a pool 3 card. So if you're new to Marvel Snap, you're not going to be unlocking him for a while. Sadly, he's nowhere near as powerful as he was. He's still a very strong card. We'll explain why. So he was always a 4-cost card and he was 4 power. So okay for a 4-cost card, I guess. But his ability was all the cards in your deck, their power and their cost swap. So an example, which was very, very powerful, is Iron Man. Iron Man is a 5-cost card, 5 energy, 0 power. Those numbers flipped. He became a 0-cost card with 5 power that still doubles the power at your location. So all of a sudden, Iron Man becomes free to play when you draw him, and he gives you 10 power instantly because of his ability. Plus, any other cards there still have his ability. So that was just that's just one card that got broken. Ironheart, another 0 power card. All of a sudden, it had 3 power and still had its ability. There was a ton of other cards like this that Mr. Negative worked with, and basically you could have turn 6s where you played Iron Man, Ironheart, White Tiger. You could play a bunch of 4, 5, 6-cost cards in one turn. It was insane. Mr. Negative still has that ability, so you can still pull off his crazy combos, but he got nerfed to a 1-power card. Now, we discussed this on the podcast when we were saying what needed to be nerfed, and we said Mr. Negative months ago, and it did get nerfed. Your idea was exactly this. Let's just lower the power of him. I didn't like that because I still think his ability is way too powerful. He ended up actually getting nerfed again 2 weeks later because obviously the stats hadn't changed much. Him losing 3 power, his ability was the actual reason you play the card. No one really cared about actually Mr. Negative's power. So now Mr. Negative, when you finally unlock him in pool 3, he is a 4-cost card. His power is -1. Is this the first card we've seen that is a natural -1 that doesn't... I think of Green Goblin and Green Goblin and Hobgoblin are negative, but their whole point is they go to your opponent's side. They hurt your opponent. Do we have any cards that are just negative to your side of the board?
We have the Hood, which is like a -2.
I guess you're right. He gives you a 6-power card, so you're still +4.
Yeah, correct.
He gives you a 6-power card in your hand for 1 cost. So, I mean, it's 2 costs for 4 power. And I mean, it's interesting. I think,
I think like I know that you're saying that Mr. Negative's ability is OP. I think the way that they have kind of changed that is by changing the power of other cards.
Yes,
like
you're right. You're correct.
Devil Dino is no longer 0 power. Devil Dino
yes.
is now 3 power.
So
it's like a buff to Devil Dino, but it kind of is
nerf.
like a nerf to Mr. Negative decks.
Yes.
The only cards that are used in a Mr. Negative deck that remain as 0 power is like your Iron Man, Iron Heart. There's nothing else. Like
Wolfsbane can get played. It's like
can,
not as
like,
common. White Tiger, What used
to happen is Lady Thor would bring out all of the 0 cost cards. You can't do that anymore.
So what Lady Thor does, you play her on turn 5, and she adds all 0 cost cards to your hand, which would be Iron Man, Devil Dinosaur, Ronan at one point when he was 0 power, Ironheart, and you could play all of them for free plus a like 4, 5, 6 cost card.
Yeah,
it's so broken.
It was insane.
Just thinking about it is like, how did this deck end up existing?
Yeah, I think it is a good change to the negative one. I think just like the interaction you were saying before with an Iron Man, which is played in every single Mr. Negative deck.
Yep, the negative one.
Before, you could get Mr. Negative 4, and an Iron Man
5
on one location,
18 power,
and you would get 18 power. Now you can't do that anymore.
Yes.
You get Mr. Negative and an Iron Man at the same location, and you're only getting 8
power. And I think you're right in that they buffed other cards. Like Devil Dinosaur was kind of a buff, I guess. Maybe not really. But they made sure that these cards had power. They weren't 0 anymore because Mr. Negative could take advantage of that. So again, I guess what you're saying, let's change other cards to make Mr. Negative less powerful. One thing I do want to note is I'm sure they thought thematically that Mr. Negative would be -1.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
Like I kind of giggled when I saw that change. So that
fits.
Mr. Negative is probably the most recent super strong played all the time deck because it just had that crazy synergy. But here we are now. Marvel Snap is in the current state that it is. If any of you want to go check out all the patch notes, you can get them on marvelsnap.com. If you go to their announcements, you can sort by patch notes and actually read all the old patches. For those of you that you're really into the game, you like seeing the evolution of things, go and check that out because there's a bunch of other changes in the last 4 months, 5 months that the game's been in beta. These were probably the main ones that had massive impacts.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more. But yeah, so it's quite interesting. I actually got Mr. Negative quite early now that I think about it, and I didn't really play him because I didn't know what cards to play around him. Then when I unlocked, then when I realized he's actually pretty nuts. Another card we thought, Jubilee. So Jubilee is a 4/1. You flip that to a 1/4. Now you play Jubilee, you pull another card out of your deck. Oh man, it's just nuts.
It's insane. I think we both played Mr. Negative while it was a 4/4.
Yep.
It was insane.
Yep.
Like I got to infinite with that deck. I haven't played him much since the nerf, just because it's not as consistent.
Devil Dinosaur and Ronan being 0 power was just like the craziest thing ever. It was just super overpowered, and I think where it is now is good. Cool.
I agree.
Yep, for sure. So now we are at Marvel Snap How It Is. We've got all these new players coming. They're having their opinion on the game. I've seen a bunch of positive things. I've seen people that, not too keen on the game. They think there's not enough strategy. I think to anyone that's unsure of how they feel right now, just keep playing. Early on in the game, yes, you're playing other people with similar card pools, so there's not a ton of variety. Once you get to your end of pool 2, start unlocking pool 3 cards, start getting these crazy, not powerful abilities, but these new mechanics and abilities. The game really opens up. Your deck building options open up. And then I think you'll really start to appreciate the strategy and intricacies of the game. I saw people that maybe pool 1, they're like, there's not really any strategy to this game. I'm like, yeah, well, you've only got it's like buying a game, playing the first 2 missions, and then being like, this game is there's not enough missions.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You're only getting a little bit of the experience. So I definitely reckon just push through for a little bit and see, in maybe a month's time if you're enjoying the game. We've been playing for 4 months now and we're still absolutely loving it.
I think just unlocking, even at this stage, we've been playing for a while.
Yeah.
And just unlocking one card, like one specific card or
Yep.
build around card,
Yep.
can just change your whole experience and make you have so much more fun with the game than you were having. And yeah, that may die out after a while, but hopefully by then you unlock another card that just changes your experience and
Yep.
makes the game awesome.
So this is one of the first card games in like recent times that I can think of, like a digital card game that's giving me that dopamine hit when I open a new card. So
Yep.
my example is like when we open like real trading cards in real life, like it's so much fun opening packs. Yeah, like it's just fun. You're like, oh, I got
Yeah.
this cool thing and I opened it. You know, Hearthstone. I played Hearthstone on and off literally since the game came out. I will buy 100 packs for a new season, a new expansion, and I will literally they don't have a way to mass open them. So you have to go through and open each individual pack, and I literally ignore what's in them unless it's like maybe a legendary, because I'm just going to open them all and then just craft the cards I want to build the deck. Like I'm just buying the cards basically to get, a good pool of cards and currency to buy the cards I actually want. I could not care less what I open. Whereas this game, when you get a new card from a collector's cache, once you're in pool 3 and you unlock Mr. Negative or you unlock, let's say like Hela or you unlock Destroyer, all of a sudden you've got a bunch of new decks you can play and you just get this massive dopamine hit. And I've seen that because people post, oh, I just unlocked this card. I just unlocked that card. And all of a sudden the game goes from like, oh, I've been playing this deck because it's, all I can really like build right now. Then all of a sudden a bunch of new ideas are open to you. And I think there's no other digital card game that gives you that right now other than Marvel Snap.
It is so fun. I definitely not. I agree with you 100%. I don't play Hearthstone, but I have opened packs on Hearthstone, and I can't believe that they make you open the packs individually.
Yeah.
That is so tedious.
Professional Hearthstone players, streamers have been saying literally for years and years, can we just have an open all button because we don't care?
Yeah,
It's like
I cannot believe that they haven't had that yet.
It's because they want you to experience. They're trying to give you that dopamine hit, but unless you're a casual player who doesn't open a lot of packs, it's just not there. Marvel Snap, there's no way. Like unless you go crazy and buy like thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of credits, you're only opening a new card maybe every few days if you're lucky, maybe every 3-4 days. Yeah, maybe every couple of days depending how much you play.
Yeah, and you can't even do that because the gold, you have to buy gold with real money.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So unless you've got tons of money, like unless you're dropping, hundreds and hundreds of dollars every like week, you're not getting, you're not getting 100 new cards in an expansion like other games.
No.
You're getting one card drip fed to you.
I stand by it, what I've said for weeks. I love the progression on Marvel Snap.
Yep.
I love the collection level. I love the way you unlock cards. Yes, I think that they could give you, like, in a mystery card, they could give you 3 cards to choose from, but I love the rate that I unlock cards because it's enough that I'm excited to go up collection levels because, like, oh, I might unlock a new card here, but it's slow enough, and like you said, it's slow enough that I'm not like constantly unlocking cards and then, I get rid of it and whatever. I love the progression level.
Yeah, I think I was on the opposite spectrum where I was like, I wish I could just have all the cards now. Now, to be honest, it's hard for me to say now because I'm getting close to having all the cards. I think I need to unlock like 10 more cards in pool 3. So it's kind of like I'm getting closer to having everything. So it's a bit of a, like, I guess that impacts my opinion a bit. But maybe like a month or two ago, I kind of flipped onto your side of the progression system is part of the game. Like that, if they don't want you to have all the cards, access to all the cards, because I mean, there's the chance that you like play all the meta decks and then you're bored. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, there's nothing new. Now I've got to wait a month for a new card. Or Marvel Snap have said that they're going to be releasing. I don't know if I've told you this. Marvel Snap said that they're going to be releasing after they've worked out their collector's tokens, which is going to be a new way for you to target specific cards, which is going to be great for newer players. They can get the cards that they want to build decks for. Once they've done that, they have said that they're going to be releasing weekly new cards.
Oh, breaking news.
Well, sort of, I guess. I
did not know that.
It's not like, I guess it's not going to be like season pass or anything. It might be like the pools where it gets added to like your pool collection and you can unlock it from leveling up. But like, so there's more cards coming. And I think if you just gave us all the current cards they've got made for Marvel Snap, if we just got all of them, I reckon I'd maybe be bored in like 3 months, potentially. And like
100%.
People who play the game every day for hours on end would probably get bored pretty quickly. So I think collection level, it is what it is. That's how the game is. People are going to complain about it. People are going to say they like it. They are listening to people that don't like it, and they're going to give you ways to target cards soon. So like, don't fret if that's the reason you dislike the game. And then there's people, the whales can just spend all their money and have all the cards if they really want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's Marvel Snap how it is now. We went through the roadmap a couple of episodes ago, all the things that are coming to Marvel Snap. I might retweet that again as well if you want to check that out. And last week's episode, we went through a bunch of beginner tips. So if you're a new player and you haven't listened to the last episode, go and do that, as we gave a bunch of cool tips there. I think me, you, and Tom all gave a tip or two. They can be very helpful as well. But we are towards the end of the episode, but of course we have to play everyone's favorite Marvel Snap quiz game, Snap Who. This quiz game, we spoke about it earlier in the podcast. Basically, each week, Justin, Tom, and I, and when we have a guest on, they're also going to be guessing. Basically, we will read out the ability on a card, a Marvel Snap card, and then the person we're asking has to guess the power, energy, the energy cost, and the name of the card. They get 1 point for each for a maximum of 3 points. So that's how the game works. You guys can play at home if you're listening to the podcast or you're here with us live. You can try and guess with us. We won't be looking at the chat. Justin, I believe, am I giving you a card? Is that correct?
You are giving me a card.
I'm giving you a card, and you're guessing.
Not looking at the chat.
Okay, I'm giving you a card. It would have been great if I thought of this. I'll be quick.
That's all right.
Okay.
So I feel like I have a good knowledge of all the cards.
Really interesting.
Except for if you throw like a token at me.
I kind of don't want to do that.
Yeah. Or anyway, I don't want to give you ideas.
I've done that before.
Yeah, I know you have. Or like something with just flavor text. I have read the flavor text on like vanilla cards, but I wouldn't say that I know them off by heart.
This guy Justin's literally studying for this. That's insane.
Yeah, I reckon I should be able to at least get the name of a card, any other card.
All right, let's do it. I'm ready. You ready?
Right, let's go. Yep.
Okay. I'm going to bring it up so we can show it. On reveal, move an opposing 1 or 2 cost card to this location.
I don't know.
All right, let's think it out.
I kind of know.
Let's think it out. Have I got him?
I have a pool of cards that may be this card. Like I know. say it again.
Okay. On reveal, move an opposing 1 or 2 cost card to this location.
Okay, so I've got 2 cards in mind.
Yep.
I've got Arrow.
Yep.
Is that a card? I think it's Arrow. It's the white one, the white girl with the black hair.
That is a card.
Oh, there's another one, Polaris.
Yep.
Which is like a green girl dressed in green.
Yep.
I know they both move posing cards. I can't remember. Can you say it again?
Okay. On reveal, this is the last time. On reveal, move an opposing 1 or 2 cost card to this location. I'm going to have to read it again.
All right. No. Right. I'm going to say Polaris. I'm locking in Polaris.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Polaris. I have no idea. It's going to be I think she's a 3 cost. I'm thinking 3. I don't know if it's 3-2 or 2-3. I'm going to say Polaris, and I'm locking in 3-2.
Okay. Now, there are other cards that move cards around that you didn't think of.
There are, but I feel like...
You feel like it wasn't any of those?
One of those two.
Okay. Well, I can confirm that it is Polaris. So that's 1 point. It is what did you say the energy cost was?
3 energy, 2 power.
It is a 3 cost card. That's why I asked. Points? I asked because that was very important. Yeah. And it is unfortunately a 5 power card.
5 power.
You were very close. So you got 2 out of 3 points, which is actually pretty impressive. And I'll actually bring up the card. I think I've set this up so that I can bring up a card. There we go. So
5 power. Wow.
that is Polaris. So 3 cost, 5 power, and the ability to move an opposing 1 or 2 cost card to this location. I've actually been seeing this card a little bit on ladder with Kingpin. So you can play Polaris and move the 1 and 2 cost cards to Kingpin on turn 6 and like basically destroy them. So yeah, and like then you've also got Magneto that can move 3 and 4 cost cards there. So Polaris is kind of like the lower cost version of Magneto.
I've never seen this card being played.
I've seen it played recently.
I think I have it. I think I have Polaris unlocked. I think I unlocked her kind of semi recently, but I've never tried her out.
So when you said you knew all the cards, I'm scrolling through and I'm just like, he's not gonna know this, and you almost didn't. You were a bit on edge. So chat. So multiple people in chat got it correct. Well done, chat. Chat says love Polaris, especially with Miles. El Damo loves it with Miles because if Polaris moves other cards, it doesn't matter who moves cards. Miles becomes a 1-cost card.
Yeah, that is real cool.
So that is a very cool synergy. I like it. I like it a lot. Well, guys, that is another episode of Snap Who. How many points are you on, Justin? I actually don't have it up. I think that puts you. Does that tie you with? Does that put you 1 point above me? I believe.
I think so. I think that puts me in the lead.
I think you're correct. I actually don't have the numbers here this week. I don't know why. I actually have them.
I believe Tom's at 8.
I'm at
7, and I'm on 9.
You're on 9. I think you might be correct. Yes, because we've all played. Yeah, no, you are definitely correct. So that puts you in the lead. Tom second, me last? That's so sad. Yeah. I can't even remember what last week's card was, which is obvious because I didn't get it right. That's funny. Perfect, guys. So that's another week of Snap Who, guys. I hope you are enjoying Marvel Snap, all the new players. I hope you're enjoying the podcast if you've just found it, and all of the OG podcast listeners. I saw some people on Twitter that added us saying, I've been listening from the first episode. So to our OG listeners, thank you so much for sticking with us. And to all the new people that have come in, you guys have been amazing. I mean, every time I open, check the podcast stats, it's just blowing my mind how quickly you guys are sharing the podcast, how many people are listening to it. So thank you so much, guys. You're absolute legends. Guys, again, if you haven't already, head to the YouTube at ShadowDTV. You could be able, there's tons of deck videos. We've got the podcast there, so you can watch us live. You can see our faces, see our reactions, things like that. And then, of course, it's going to be on all the podcast apps. Justin, what's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle, I forget it. It's
at JZZY,
JZZY 036.
That's the one. I'm going to keep reminding him because he's very new to the Twitter sphere. I've been posting a ton of stuff on Twitter, but then of course we've got YouTube and pretty much all the socials really we've been using for Infinite Snap. Guys, at Infinite Snap Pod on Twitter, we're sharing all the info that you need to know. Every week we've got all the featured locations, hot locations, in-game tips, deck lists. We got it all, so definitely go and follow there. Like just today, every time I'd look at my phone, there'd be like, ding, new follower, Infinite Snap Pod. So guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I think that's all we have for this week. If you are new, maybe go back and listen to a couple of previous episodes. There's going to be some there's great information in all of them. We have great discussions every week. I really enjoyed the podcast, but obviously, the latest information is going to be the newest ones. But I've seen there's been people going back a couple hundred plays on some of our older episodes, which is crazy. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Justin, any last words?
I think, love the support, everyone. It's awesome. Good to be a part of the Marvel Snap community.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, want to plug ShadowDTV YouTube again. Also, go check out his decklist videos. Like, I have played with some of them recently. After I hit Infinite, of course. I've gone back and made some of Shadow's decks, and they're actually really good. And also, I absolutely love his draft videos. The draft videos are my absolute favorite. Check them out.
Thank you. Yeah, so the draft videos, I'm thinking of doing them live on stream. When we stream awesome. Games, I think that'll be kind of a fun thing we can do. But that's another discussion, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We'll catch you on next week's episode. Big celebration of Marvel Snap. So glad. I hope all you new players are enjoying the game, and we're going to be, having tons more discussions of the game and just having an absolute blast, guys. That's the Infinite Snap podcast. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.
See ya.